Hello YouTube, today I'm gonna go through some core cards that you may want to have in mind if you want to build the Almajestar deck that's gonna be coming up in DBT09 in February. So let's go right into it with the right line. Your grade 0 starter, Almajestar Pipe-based Mulche. Your generic Vanguard, if you go second, draw a card. Next, grade 1, Almajestar Sparda. When this unit is ruled upon by the grade 2 Almajestar 2-run Dyna, you can soul charge 2. If a critical trigger is soul charged in that soul charge 2, you draw a card. Then on the rear guard, once per turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, you can bind one trigger from your soul, and this unit gets plus 10,000 until end of turn. Next, for the grade 2 right line, you have Almajestar 2-run Dyna. When this unit is rolled upon by a unit with Estroya in its card name, which is the grade 3, you choose a Almajestar Sparda, which is the grade 1 from your soul, call that to the rear guard circle and discard to the rear guard circle as well. And once per turn, on rear guard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar in its card's name, you can counterblast one to choose 2 trigger units from your drop zone, put them into your soul, and this unit gets plus 5,000 at the end of turn. Then next to the boss card of this deck, Almajestar Estroya Unica. When a trigger unit is soul blessed for the cost of this unit's ability, you can choose one of your units and it gets plus 5,000 until end of turn. And on auto Vanguard, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can soul blast 3 and bind all the critical triggers that was soul blasted for its cost and perform the following equal to the number of critical triggers in your bind zone. If you have 1 or more, you can choose an opponent's rear guard and retire it. 2 or more, it gets plus 1 critical until end of the battle. 3 or more, it gets plus 1 drive until end of the battle. Next, you have some support cards you can play. Rolnik Cerberus, grade 3 on rear guard, act once per turn. If you have a Vanguard with Almajestar in its card's name, cost, you can counterblast one to choose 2 trigger units from your drop zone, put them into your soul, and this unit gets plus 5,000 until end of turn. Next, the grade 2 support card, Kid's Peak Griffin. Auto on rear guard. When this unit is placed on rear guard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar in its card's name, you can choose 2 trigger units from your drop zone and put them into your soul. Continuous rear guard and guardian circle. If you have a critical trigger in your bind zone, this unit gets plus 5,000 power and shield plus 5,000. This is continuous, so it'll be, if you have a critical trigger in your bind zone, it's a 15k beater and a 10k shield, continuous on your turn and your opponent's turn. Then there's some cards, those are the previous cards, are the core cards that you really should have inside your deck, and this other cards is sort of flexible. You can may or may not put inside your deck, where you can see fit which kind of playstyle or what suits the deck more according to what you want to play. So what you can consider is this grade 1 Aram Capricornus. Auto on rear guard. When this unit boosts, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar in its card's name, choose up to 1 trigger unit from your hand or drop and put it into your soul. If you put a card from your hand, you draw 1. So this basically is a card that helps you sort of cycle your hand to put inside the soul. You can do it. You can play this card in early game to do it because your right line has Almajestar in its card's name, and in late game you can use it to put triggers from your drop zone into your soul, because most of the cards that puts your triggers into your soul from the drop zone is in numbers of 2. So you kind of still need that extra 1 to benefit from the grade 3 bosses card effect. So this is a card that is sort of like a good alternative you can look into. Next, for the trigger lineup you can play, there's generally two ways you can actually play for your trigger setup. You can play a full 8 crit, draw and heal, or you play a mix of rainbow, which is a crit, front, draw and heal. And I personally recommend actually playing the rainbow more. It's just your crits having a higher count, so your crits can be 5, your front can be 4, your draws and heals, your heals can be 4, and then the rest is the draws. Because mainly the reason why you want to actually play this rainbow is so that if you were to put critical triggers into the soul from your drop zone and then use your grade 3 boss ability, you're forced to bind all the critical triggers that you soul blasted, which leaves you to have sort of like a lack of triggers in your drop zone to put inside your soul for late game push. Because if you have 8 crit and the rest are draws and heals, you have to get those draws and heals somehow into the drop zone late game, and you won't really encounter that much triggers in the first place in the game. Because generally, how many turns can you realistically go on in a Vanguard game, especially for D series? You generally only see up to turn 5 or 6, especially in this kind of meta that we've sort of seen. So generally having cards to sort of sustain longer to hit that 5 or 6 turn where you can still continue to beat down your opponent with your grade 3 boss's abilities is much better than nothing, I guess. Okay, so next is how you generally want to play or set up by your turn 3. So if you go by the right line from 0 to 1 to 3 to 0 to from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, generally you should try to set up in this way. So the grade 2 support, the Clit's Peak Griffin, it can generally be replaced with like the grade 3 support or any other cards. Really, it's just there for beater. So generally you want to keep for your right line discard a critical trigger, because that's the most optimal, or at least a trigger. So it can be like a draw, a heal, or even a front, so that you have your grade 2, the second ability to counterblast, to put inside the soul, as well as if you have extra, you can put you can use the Clit's Peak Griffin to put them also inside the soul. Now what's great about this is that this turn 3 is already quite good, because you can push for really good numbers. Because let's say if you were to swing with your grade 3 first and use its ability to soul blast 3, so let's say hypothetically you soul blast 3 triggers. One is crit, and then the other 2 can be any type of trigger. The crit will get bind and you fulfill whatever conditions there is, so you retire 1. Then its first ability, where every time a trigger is soul blasted for its cost, you can give 1 unit plus 5. And the best thing about this is that you can sort of spread it out to different units. So you can give it to Clit's Peak Griffin, individual different plus 5s. So you can give Clit's Peak Griffin plus 10k. So because you soul blasted 3 triggers, you give the 5k to Clit's Peak Griffin twice, and then give your other column a +5 to spread out, and so that you can hit your opponent's Vanguard. Because crit speed is a 15k beater. If you give it a 10k, additional 10k, it becomes a 25k, hitting a, let's say if your opponent is at grade 2, you're hitting a 10k base opponent's Vanguard. So the opponent has to fork out 20k for the crit speed dragon, and let's say the other column is gonna be 28, because you have the counterblast 1 to soul charge 2 triggers from the drop zone into the soul to get +5, and then you get an additional 5 from the grade 3's ability. So one column is gonna be 25, and in the other column is gonna be 28, which is actually really good numbers against like your opponent's grade 2 turn, or even when your opponent is already reaching grade 3, you're still able to hit good numbers to force your opponent to guard. So this deck has some good cards, but I wouldn't say it's the best it can offer, because right now, from the cards that we've seen from this set in DBT09, it looks like it's gonna be a situation where it's gonna look like Zorga. You're gonna see it top every now and then, but it's not really tier 1, very strong, very OP. There's no counter to it, because the one thing that is actually lacking to reach that sort of tier is it needs to have some sort of rearguard that allows it to restand, because it has everything else this deck needs to make it meta, except for a multi-attacker. That's the only thing that this deck is really lacking, because this deck is really hard to push for game, because you're still just inherently swinging 3 big boys, or rather big columns, to hit the opponent Vanguard, and that's not really that good in a sense. So we have to wait and see how the future support from DBT10 onwards are going to continue supporting Almajestar in the future. So would I recommend this deck? I'll say it's actually quite good, and if in the future if it does have a multi-attacker supporter, it's gonna be really top tier, super meta, and I think if you invest in this deck, you have some sort of competitiveness. If you want to play in tournaments, this deck is quite good, but not extremely good. But this deck is still a waifu deck, so I'll still watch out for my wallet if I were you, because, well, it's a waifu deck. It's played by a girl, so in the anime, so it's gonna be really popular, so prices are gonna be high, and compared to the other 2 decks, or maybe 3 if you want to include the one with the grade 10, this deck is sort of the best out of the sets, this set so far, other than maybe the new grade 3 alternative blue, grade 3 alternative Bruce, but that's for another day. But this deck is quite okay. If you want to pick up, sure, go ahead. So that's been it. Goodbye.